we are here to actually provide all the support to develop students to become a confident graduate that is needed by the industry. Please feel welcome to visit us to see how we do our transformation of students.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kishan Kumar. I will be the host. I'm not going to be doing much of the talking, but I will act as the messenger. I will be passing the speech to the speaker shortly after. And today's webinar is titled ADHD in Adults. And this title was thought up by my group, consisting of me and four other lovely members. And today's speaker will be our Zaki's very own Miss Grace, or Miss Tan Jia Yun. And let's preface as to why our group chose this topic. As some of you may know, public awareness on ADHD in Malaysia is still considered less than desirable, and let alone people don't really know that the fact that people can be left undiagnosed with ADHD well into adulthood because of the pre-notion that most, if not all, children who are diagnosed with ADHD have already done so. And we chose this topic with the main intent to inform this audience for the general aspects of ADHD and its manifestations. And so our goals are for our group is by the end of this webinar, we hope that the audience would get a better overall understanding of ADHD, like how it manifests its symptoms. And we hope that the audience manages to use this knowledge to help with existing or future relations who have whether they are having problems with mental illness in general or specifically ADHD. We hope some of this knowledge that we will impart can help you in some way or another. And we hope that the audience, through this knowledge, gets to empathize more with people who are living or suffering with ADHD. And I empathize the word empathize because sympathizing with people with mental illness is much less desirable than simply empathizing with them. And before I drag this on even further, I'd like to pass over the speech to Miss Grace. Miss Grace, you're ready anytime.
Thank you, Kishans. Good evening, everyone. I'm Grace. Okay. Before we start our webinars today, just give me some time to introduce myself. Okay. As Kishans mentions, I'm the lecturer of Segi College. Okay. So my background for my education was I pursued my master in child psychology, and I have quite a lot of experience before becoming a lecturer. I have an experience in handling special needs children, especially for those who have been diagnosed with autism and also hyperactive. So let us have a look at our slides today. Today, our topics are ADHD in adults. Okay, so I think ADHD, the terms ADHD is not really familiar, okay, compares to or really talk about compares to autism. So before we talk on the symptoms and how are we going to what are you going to do, okay, if you find that you might have some symptoms of ADHD, let me have some brief introductions to you on what is ADHD and also some symptoms, okay, that commonly will appears, okay, or will show in children with ADHD. So ADHD, or we also call it in full terms, attention deficit or hyperactive disorder. So this disorder normally will be diagnosed, okay, in children. Okay, however, this mental disorder will also affecting not only children but also adults. Although the first episode or the first realizations of the symptoms might during the childhood time when the child is entering school, need a lot of attention, need them to focus on their works, okay, and during that time only we might able to notice there are some deficit in your kids, okay, attentions, which or your kids might have some attention problems. So for those who have been diagnosed, okay, or for those who have ADHD, they might have trouble in paying attention, controlling their impulsive behavior, and overly active. So we will talk on the attentions and impulsive symptoms later on, and we will have further discussions, and I will give you some example or explanations on what are they. So before I go into the symptoms, okay, of ADHD in children, I would like to show you two demonstrations videos. The first videos, I would like to ask you all, okay, ask the audience to look at the video. For the first video, look at it and see how many changes you're able to notice in that videos. Okay, hold on, let me pull out my videos. Okay, pay attention on it, and after the end of the video, you can put your comments, okay, to tell us, okay, how many changes you're able to notice in these videos.
Take a look at this image. We're going to alter it 5 times. Count the number of changes you see. Easy. You saw all 5.
Okay, so how many changes you guys able to notice in that videos? How many changes you guys able to notice from the first video? Or maybe Kishan, you can tell me how many changes?
From the video, I saw about 4 changes if you count the Whole Foods counting as 1 change instead of 2 changes. So
Okay, so you can see 4 changes.
if
Okay,
my
great.
eyes are too bad.
Okay, great. Actually, the total changes that suppose in the video is 5 changes. Okay, so this is the first video. Let's have a look at the second videos before I further explain. So similarly, look at the videos, pay attention on how many changes, okay, how many changes you're able to notice.
But this time we're going to put a second of black between each still. Try to count the number of changes you see. That one was a bit hard.
I will play it one more times, okay, for you guys to see a second time. Pay attention and see how many changes they make.
But this time we're going to put a second of black between each still. Try to count the number of changes you see. That one was a bit hard.
Okay, let's have a good guess. How many changes you're able to see from the second videos? Anyone? Is it hard by comparing the first video and second video? For second video, is it hard to tackle the changes? Oh, there's one audience say that it can see 2. It was 2. You only can see 2, okay, because it's fast. It's not only fast because of the black screen, correct or not? Because of the black screen. So this is what happened. This is what happened for children when with ADHD. Because of their inattentions, they have a deficit in their attention. So sometimes they might hard to tackle, okay, or to pay attention on the certain details. So actually for the second videos, there are also 5 changes with 7 black screen in between. So the black screen is something that distract you, or is something that distract your attentions. Okay, so this is for you to understand how ADHD they feel. Okay, when you ask them to pay attention, sometimes it's not their fault. Okay, sometimes it's not they purposely want to be distracted, but it's due to their brain mechanism. Okay, so what are the symptoms of ADHD in children? Okay, so normally we will have 2 different, 2 big umbrella, 2 categories. The first one is inattentions. Okay, since the title is attention deficit, so which means that they have problems in their attentions. So when they have problems in their attentions, you can see that they might have this poor listening skills. They're unable to follow instructions. Okay, you can see that when you ask them to go to the toilet and wash your hand, these simple instructions, for children with ADHD, sometimes they are hard. Okay, they are hard to follow. They might able to go to the toilet, but they don't know what to perform, so they have poor listening skills. The second one is they might always lost something else, or misplace something, misplace their pencil, misplace their workbook. Okay, might tell you every day. Your kids might come back and tell you saying that, or they lost their eraser. Okay, they might sometimes loss of the money. Okay, they might have sidetracked by external or unimportant stimulus. So this is very similar to what just now the second video showed. Okay, with the black screens. Okay, so sometimes they are easily get distracted. So at school, okay, this is for children in class, when they are paying attention to the teachers. Okay, looking at the teachers, paying attention to the what the teacher is saying. If someone passing by their classroom, they will be distracted, although it's unimportant. Okay, so they are easily get distracted. They might always forget some daily activity. Okay, so sometimes they might wake up, okay, forget to brush teeth, forget to pack something else. When teacher asks them to bring ask them to bring certain books on next day, they might easily forget. Children with ADHD, they might also have very little attention span. They're unable to pay attention in no long than 5 minutes. They might have the lack of abilities to complete schoolworks, especially for those who need a lot of concentrations. For example, doing mathematics. For example, when they are doing artworks, okay, they need a lot of focus. They're unable to do it in a very long time span. They might able to do it in 2 minutes, then they will go and do the other things and come back again. So you can see that when they do works, right, as a parents, we will always think that our kids are procrastinating. They are playful. Procrastinate doing works. Okay, sometimes they will try to delay in doing work. It's not they purposely to do that, but sometimes they're unable to sit down. and focus on certain things. And they fail to focus on details. Especially in exam, we can see that children with ADHD, right, they will just look at in the big pictures and they start doing their answering their questions, okay, without looking in detailsly. So these are the symptoms that will show in children with ADHD. As the other symptoms, the other big umbrella is hyperactive or impulsive. So children with ADHD not only have attention problems, sometimes they might also have impulsive control, problems in impulsive control, or some hyperactive. So this type of children, they might fidget with hands and feet. So when they stand, they need to tap their legs. Okay, when they are waiting, queuing. Okay, sometimes they might not able to queuing, but if they're able to queuing, you can see that their hands must go and touch something else. Fidgets. Restless that is difficult to control. Okay, so sometimes they're unable to control their actions. Okay, they're unable to sit still. They need to move around. And when you ask them to stop, they might stop for 5 to 10 seconds and they start again. Appear but to be driven by a motor. So they will do things in that moment. Whatever they think, whatever thoughts that pop up, they will do it. Okay, so for example, they're eating dinner and suddenly they pop up like want to drawing. So they will just left their meals and go to take out the drawing papers and do their things. So they will do things very spontaneously. Lack of ability to engage activity, especially those who need quiet manner. Building Legos, reading books is a very hard task for them. Incapable of staying seated in class. So they're unable to sit still in class. They're unable, like other students, able to sit for 35 minutes. Okay, or unable to sit. They're unable to sit for there, not even 5 minutes. Overly talkative. They will keep talking and talking about anything. Sometimes we're unable to connect with them. Sometimes we're unable to understand what are they talking about. Difficulties in waiting in their turns. So you can see that children have impulsive problems. They might unable to wait for their turns. Okay, they can't wait. Okay, they can't be there. They have to fast. This is their mindset. Interrupt into conversations. They will interrupt you when they will interrupt someone when they are having conversations with another one. They don't know about the social skills. Okay, so these are some of the symptoms in hyperactive, children with hyperactive. Next, we will look into some survey by American Psychiatric Associations on the statistics of ADHD. So throughout the survey, we found out that actually this ADHD, this disorder, it affects 5% of children in general populations. So among these 5%, they are more frequent. The ratio for between boys and girls is boys are more than girls. As for adults, okay, actually, ADHD do affecting adults. Just like I mentioned already, although most of the ADHD are being diagnosed during childhood time. However, we remember ADHD is one of the disorder cannot be prevented or cannot be and also cured. So even though you are being diagnosed, you are having treatments, some of the symptoms might persist throughout your adulthood. However, with a proper treatment, it might help you. It might help you to control. It might help you to diminish it. But ADHD do affect 2.5% of adults in general populations, and similarly is males more than females. One of the very unfortunate things that happens in nowadays, not only in Malaysia, but in the whole world, is that the diagnosis of adult ADHD actually is very vastly under recognitions. According to a research, it showed that only 10 to 20% of adults with ADHD are actually being diagnosed and receive a proper treatment. And many of the adults are remain undiagnosed. So, why would this happen? It might be based on the belief. Okay, most of us we believe that ADHD actually is only for children because we heard a lot of children with ADHD, but we seldom heard about adults with ADHD. Or maybe you believe that ADHD is less severe with other disorder compared to depressive disorder, compared to anxiety disorder, compared to depressions, compared to PTSD. Actually, ADHD is less severe. It's not really have an influence in my, it's not really affecting my daily life. And also, why a lot of adults remains undiagnosed is because lack of awareness. So this is why we are here. We are having these webinars today. Is to create awareness. Okay, is to tell the public. Okay, is to create the awareness of ADHD in adults. Even adults is remain untreated, the symptoms of ADHD actually can lead to a lot of dysfunctions in their daily life. Sometimes we might not able to notice it, but when someone point out to you, you will realize, oh, yeah, I think so. So if we left it untreated, it will affect us in our behavior, in our emotion. Okay, it will affect our emotion. It also will affect our social interactions with others. It also will affect us academically, especially for those young adults. They will have a lot of struggle in studying, in performing. And last but not least, is in our vocational. And ADHD, the symptom of ADHD, right? Sometimes it might also comorbid with other disorder, such as this depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, personality disorder. And this is why sometimes we tend to treat our others disorder and we left ADHD alone behind it because it are not so obvious compared to others disorder. So now we are going to look at the symptoms of how ADHD, adults with ADHD, they will have certain symptoms. The symptoms some of it might similar with children's, and some of it might not. Okay, for adults with ADHD, they might not have hyperactive symptoms, but they do have impulsive control problems. Okay, let us have a look. So the first one is similarly inattentions. Most of the adults with ADHD, they might have poor attentions to details, so it will affect their performance at work, their performance at school. They might have difficulty getting started and completing tasks. So if your boss, okay, given you some tasks, sometimes you'll find hard to get started, and you might not able to submit it or complete it within the due dates. You might have difficulties focusing and regulating your attentions. So sometimes you know that, oh, I need to focus. Okay, I need to finish it up. But you're still unable to control, you still easily get distracted. Always forgetful. Forget about what your boss said. Forget about your meeting. Forget about certain details that is so important. Forget about what your customer tell you. Poor time management and organization skill. Because they're unable to pay attention to the details, they are procrastinating in doing works. So they might have hard time in time management and their organizational skills. Another symptom is impulsive. You can see that adults with ADHD, they might always fidget things, like to turn pen, flipping their fingers, shaking legs, shaking hands, okay, unable to stop it. Restless, okay, they are so active. Okay, you can see that they are like full of energy. Interrupting frequently, this is about the social skills. They will interrupt on others' conversations, interrupt during meeting. When in uni, when a lecturer is lecturing, they will just interrupt without raising their hands. And last but not least is talking excessively. You can see that, oh, they are so cheerful, they can talk with everyone. Any topic, they also can fit in. And there are two symptoms that were shown in adults, but not really shown in children. Not say that children will not have it, but sometimes it's hard for us to notice about it. The first one is emotion dysregulations. So what is emotion dysregulation? Is referring to an individual who are being overwhelmed or flooded of certain emotions. So they have impaired abilities to regulate their feelings, such as anger, anxiety, sadness, and etc. Sometimes they have struggled to calm down themselves once an emotion has taken hold. So for example, they are so angry, and until they're unable to control themselves, they will bang their head. Okay, they will bang their hands. And for emotion dysregulations, not only towards themselves, they might also have this insensitivity or unawareness of others' emotions. Okay, so when they, for example, when they are going for a funeral, they were not really sensitive with peoples, okay, who lost their family members, the struggle, okay, the sadness. They feel so weird. Why are they crying? They're unable to aware of it. So this is emotion dysregulation. The second one that adults might have difficulties, ADHD adults might have difficulty is they have low frustration tolerance, which means that they are unable to set aside these uncomfortable emotions. Okay, and they were becoming completely flooded by the feelings, making it unbearable. So, for example, when you are stuck in the traffic. Okay, so for those who have ADHD, because due to their impulsiveness, they're unable to control the frustrations. They will keep scolding the driver, why you are driving so slow? How you get your license? Okay, or any bad words will come out. So their control of frustration is very low. So these are the symptoms that ADHD in adults were posted. So if someone who have ADHD and it's not been diagnosed during childhood, might be due to the symptoms is very mild. It's not very severe during childhood. It's not so we're unable to so obvious, and it persistent, okay, to the to adulthood. And during adulthood, we still keep it untreated. So what are the challenges these individuals will face? They may have a few challenges, okay, challenges that they will have in school or in their workplace. So for example, they have struggle in time management, okay, and they found that they have poor concentrations, especially during meetings, okay, especially when they are dealing with customers, and they will keep on procrastinating in doing works, and they will find themselves easily forget certain details. Okay, so these are the struggle that they will face in school and in work. As for relationships, they might have difficulties with romantic relationships, might be with their romantic partners, with their wife. They might have difficulties with their friends, their families, and others' connections. This may be due to their lack of social skills, or sometimes due to their inattentions. They're unable to focus on certain people's conversations. And adults with ADHD, if left untreated, sometimes they might have comorbid with others' anxiety and with other disorder. Anxiety disorder is they get anxious, mood disorder, depressions. They might have social phobia, scared in interactions with others. They might have substance use disorder, have substance abuse. And also last but not least is PTSD. And lastly, it's very interesting. You can see their challenge, okay, adults with ADHD, they might have challenge in driving also. So if those who have ADHD and is untreated, they are high risk on collisions, speeding, violations, and they will perform a lot of risky behavior. And sometimes when they are doing this, actually they are quite fearful, but they have the satisfactions there when they perform this kind of behavior. So what are the causes? What are the causes of ADHD? First, might be due to genetic. So research show that if a parent who has been diagnosed ADHD, then it will increase the risk of their kids to have more severe ADHD symptoms. So it's genetically passing down. Might be due to environmental factors. If your parents, okay, if your mother during pregnancy is exposure to extreme stress, trauma, or might be exposure to certain toxins, this will also increase the risk of the baby to get ADHD. Lastly is the disruptions of development. So maybe when you are still baby, you have brain injury before, or you have certain events that affect the central nervous system during the development. So it might also cause you to have ADHD. So before we talk about the treatments and how can you do, what can you do if you notice that someone beside you is having ADHD? Now I would like to have a ADHD checklist for all of you to have a look. Okay, you can read it. Okay, and this is a checklist for ADHD. It's not a assessment. So by doing this small activity, I can't say that oh you have been diagnosed to have ADHD. Okay, because this is not an assessment, but it's just a checklist. So you can take up a pen and a paper. Okay, there's a 21 items if I'm not mistaken, and read each of the statement, and based on the statement you just put yes or no. Okay, clear? Take out a paper and pens, read each of the statement. Later each of the slide I will put around 30 seconds. Read it clearly and wrote down yes or no. Okay, the answer is just yes or no. Okay, are you ready? So here we go for the first statement. I have difficulty getting organized. Yes or no? I have difficulties getting organized. Second statement. When given a task, I usually procrastinate rather than doing it right away. Yes or no? When given a task, I usually procrastinate rather than doing it right away. The third statement, I work on a lot of projects, but can't seem to complete most of them. Yes or no? I work on a lot of projects, but can't seem to complete most of them. Next, I tend to make decisions and act on them impulsively, like spending money. Yes or no? I tend to make decisions and act on them impulsively, like spending money. I get bored easily. Yes or no? I get bored easily. No matter how much I do or how I had tried, I just can't seem to reach my goal. Yes or no? Does this statement describing you? No matter how much I do or how hard I try, I just can't seem to reach my goals. I often get distracted when people are talking. I just tune out or drift off. Yes or no? I often get distracted when people are talking. I just tune out or drift off. I get so wrapped up in some things I do that I can hardly stop to take a break or switch to doing something else. Yes or no? I get so wrapped up in some things I do that I can hardly stop to take a break or switch to doing something else. I tend to overdo things even when they are not good for me. For example, compulsive shopping, drinking too much, overworking, overeating. I can't control it. Yes or no? Is it true for you? I tend to overdo things when they are not good for me, even when they are not good for me, like compulsive shopping, drinking too much, overworking, and overeating. I get frustrated easily and I get impatient when when things are going too slow. Did you have similar experience before? I get frustrated easily and get impatient when things are going too slow. My self-esteem is not as high as that others I know. It's about your self-esteem. My self-esteem is not as high as that of others I know. Next, I need a lot of stimulations from things like action movies, video games, new purchase, being among lively friends, driving fast, or engaging in extreme sports. I need a lot of stimulations from things like actions movie, video games, new purchase, being among lively friends, driving fast, or engaging in extreme sports. I tend to say or do things without thinking, and sometimes that gets me into trouble. I tend to do or say things without thinking, and sometimes that get me into trouble. I rather do things my own than follow the rules and procedure of others. Is it true to you? I rather do things my own than follow the rules and procedures of others. I often find myself tapping a pencil, swinging my leg, or doing something else to work off nervous energy. I often find myself tapping a pencil, swinging my leg, or doing something else to work off nervous energy. I can feel suddenly down when I'm separated from people, projects, or things that I like to be involved with. I can feel suddenly down when I'm separated from people, projects, or things that I like to be involved with. I see myself differently than others see me. And when someone gets angry with me for doing something that upset them, I often very surprised. I see myself differently than others see me. And when someone gets angry with me for doing something that upset them, I'm often very surprised. Did I do that? So is this statement true to you? Even though I worry a lot about dangerous things that are unlikely to happen to me, I tend to be careless and accident prone. Even though I worry a lot about dangerous things that are unlikely to happen to me, I tend to be careless and accident prone. Last 3. Even though I have a lot of fears, people would describe me as a risk taker. Even though I have a lot of fears, people would describe me as a risk taker. Last 2. I make a lot of careless mistakes. I make a lot of careless mistakes. And last one, I have a blood relatives who suffer from ADHD, another neurological disorder, or substance abuse. I have blood relatives who suffer from ADHD, another neurological disorder, or substance abuse. This is the end for the checklist. So now you can start to calculate how many yes you get and how many no you have it. I give you maybe 30 seconds to count based on your answer how many yes you got it and how many no you got it. Calculate how many yes you have it and how many no's you have it. So based on this checklist, I can't tell you that whether you have ADHD or not. However, based on this checklist, what I can conclude is whether you show the sign of ADHD. So for those who got 15 and above, yes. Okay, who answer yes for 15 questions and above, then you might show sign for ADHD. But keep in mind, this is just a checklist. It's not a screening, it's not an assessment. So if you want to know more, you can consult doctors and psychologists. Okay, let's go to my last slide. If you really found that you might have some symptoms that I mentioned just now, then what you should do? Who can you seek help for? So the first one, you can seek help. You can go and see a doctor or a psychiatrist. You can go to a hospital and ask for it. So normally for doctor and psychiatrist, they might prescribe medications, especially for adults with ADHD. And research also show that medication do have a lot of do effective, okay, to treat adult with ADHD. The second choices that you can seek for, or the second person that you can seek for help, is psychologists or psychotherapists. So for psychologists and psychotherapists, they are unable to prescribe medications. However, they will do a lot of psychotherapy treatment, like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, life coachings, okay, and all these are proved to be helpful. Okay, so these are some of the things that I would like to share in today's webinars. Before I end my webinars, I would like to say that many ADHD adults were not diagnosed with ADHD in childhood, might be due to the minimal demands of childhood and the protective structures of their environments, which may have masked their behavior or their functions impact of their symptoms. So these individuals, they might have struggled or they might have greater impairment with emerging their academics, their occupations, and their social demands of during their adulthoods. So, untreated adult ADHD might cause high rates of academic and underachievement, unemployment, underemployment, divorce, marital separations, substance abuse, and etc. Many adults with ADHD are often living below their potential due to low self-esteem and lack of motivations, which related to their persistent symptoms. Therefore, it's likely that better recognitions and early treatment interventions will help to improve their performance and quality of life. So don't be fearful, don't be afraid to seek help from the professional. Thank you. I pass back the time to Kishan.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Miss Grace, for that wonderful speech. And I've managed to pick up a few questions. And are you willing to answer some of them?
Yes. Are you
Okay, so
going to open the Q&A sessions to the audience?
yes, I would like to explain to the audience. Are there any questions that you would like to ask Miss Grace?
Kishan, maybe we can go for your questions first.
Yeah, okay, sure. So for the first question, right? What other conditions can occur with ADHD? So, like, is there a risk of being diagnosed with another condition while also having ADHD?
Yes, like what I mentioned just now, actually ADHD, especially in adults, right? Are comorbid with a lot of different disorders such as mood disorder, depressive, anxiety, substance abuse. Yeah, they might have the comorbidities with other disorders.
So you're saying like they coexist with each other in a sense.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. And then is like early smoking in adolescence correlated in any way to development of ADHD?
Oh,
Or is it
yes, because of the substance abuse. So, if ADHD is left untreated or undiagnosed, or we just leave it like this, then you might have some smoking habits, addictions on smoking.
so impulsive smoking can be seen as a symptom of ADHD early adolescence?
It can be a symptoms, but it can coexist together.
Okay, thank you. And in the chance that a woman gets pregnant, a woman who has ADHD, is it safe for her to take any like a medication to help with her like a stimulus, any stimulant medication? Is it safe?
Okay, because for medications, right, we have two types, stimulations and non-stimulations medications. I'm not the profession, I'm not the doctor to prescribe medications, so I might not able to answer these questions. So if a pregnant lady who currently have found out that they might have symptoms of ADHD, then my advice will be seek for doctor and see what is the advice from the doctor.
Okay. And then my last question is in the chance that uh, a person has ADHD, a working adult, should they tell their employer? Should they like fully disclose it to their employer? Like,
Oh, this is your confidentiality. You can keep it to yourself, but uh, if your employer asks you and you think that is you are comfortable to share with your employer, then it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah.
okay, so it's a matter of trust in that aspect.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So we have a few questions. So one from Tang RX. Are ADHD adults manipulative?
Actually, it's very depends. Because some of the ADHD adults very manipulative is due to their impulsive control. They are unable to wait, so they will start to instruct a lot of things. They can't follow instructions from others. So, but some with very mild symptoms, they might not so manipulative. So I can't say that all the adults with ADHD is manipulative. It very depends on the severity.
Okay. And then one from Omar Al-Abadi, how do we treat ADHD?
How do we treat ADHD for children? Normally, we won't suggest for medications. We will go for psychotherapy. We will go for OT. We will go for CBT. As for adults, we might suggest you to prescribe medications, as it can suppress a lot of the symptoms. Yeah.
Okay. And that's me has a question. Is there anything or any career that someone with ADHD is not good with? Is there something they cannot do? Like it's compared to a normal person, like without ADHD?
No, I will say no. I will say no, because if adults with ADHD, actually they only have a lot problems with their attentions, but not physically impairments. So most of the works careers that I think they can perform, but they might have not performing well in their career. This is what I
Okay,
can say.
so it's less of a
Yeah.
lack of ability and more they just have an extra set of problems to go over.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And then another one from Omar. Also, how do we approach people with ADHD?
May I know approach in what way? In what way we
I
should
guess
say?
maybe in a social setting, like how do we like approach and socialize with them without maybe
Okay.
offending them in any way?
Actually, for people with ADHD, right? We can, especially for adults. Sometimes we unable. Their symptoms is not very obvious. It's not like children's.
Mhm.
So when we are approaching them, uh, like normal people, talk with them. But if you are trying to like persuading them to seek help or what, then maybe you need to be aware of the terms that you use. Okay, instead of saying that, oh, you are sick, you have illness, then maybe we can say that, oh, you might have problems in certain areas, and you need to seek help from the professionals.
Okay.
Mm,
And one last question from Genevieve Joe. Do adults with ADHD lack empathy?
yes, they might not they might not able to show empathy, as they might not, just now I mentioned about the emotion dysregulations. They might not so sensitive with others people emotions. That's why sometimes it's not they purposely want to react in another way, just they unaware of it. So from what we able to see is like, oh, these people is like lack of empathy. Yeah, we can say something like this.
Okay. I guess that's all for the question session. Thank you very much, Miss Chris, for the
Okay,
answering these
thank you,
questions.
thank you everyone.
Okay. Once again, thank you everyone for taking your time this evening. I'm sure, maybe you guys are probably eating right now or something. And if you aren't and you're staving off food, I apologize, and I'm also very grateful that you're willing to stave off dinner. And yeah, as you can get your certificate through the uh, through this URL, or you can open up your phone and use the QR scanner to get your certificate. And yeah, I guess that's about it. That was me, and that was Miss Grace with our webinar. Thank you very much. And yeah,